But we do have some very big NFL playoff games, Brett. I mean, we got Saturday games, we got some Sunday games again, and we even have 7 seeds. We have only one team in each conference getting a bye this year. The 2 plays the 7, the 3 plays the 6, and the 4 plays the 5. Very, very interesting in a already very, very strange and odd year.
Well, everyone knows 7 seeds are in the playoffs. They're just usually an eighth seed. But yeah, we do have some 7 seeds. The Indianapolis Colts travel to Buffalo, beautiful sunny Buffalo in January. Can't imagine a more beautiful destination to travel to. But no, it's gonna be cold. It's gonna be windy. Maybe even a little snowy. Higgins, I don't know. But Buffalo's -6.5 here, and I'm just betting against Philip Rivers in the playoffs. I know that Indianapolis's defense is good, and I know that they've been able to put up some points this year, but Philip Rivers does not win playoff games, and I'm just honestly sticking with that trend and saying Buffalo wins their first playoff game in a long, long time. And they take care of business and they cover the spread at home. They're going to have fans there, Higgins. So I
About
think it's just going to.
6,500.
Yeah, but fans in the
Still fans, still
stands.
fans,
Yeah,
still
and I
fans.
think not that those fans are going to make the biggest difference in the world, but it's going to be added energy in the stadium that they haven't felt all year. And it's just going to be a great day in Buffalo.
Okay, so we got 6,500 fans. What's the over-under on the amount of tables broken?
6,500.
Okay. You don't think there's going to be anyone that potentially brings 2 tables?
Well, that's the over.
That's the over.
That's the over.
I like your bet, Brett. I like Buffalo -6.5. You mentioned the Pillars earlier and staying off a bet for me with the Suns. That's kind of what I'm doing here with you. I think Buffalo wins this game. I think they should cover. Interesting point about Philip Rivers, though. I'll be very curious to see if that trend of him not winning playoff games does follow him to Indianapolis, because before he got that mantra, that was Marty Schottenheimer's mantra with the Chargers. The Chargers couldn't win playoff games. Marty Schottenheimer couldn't win playoff games. It was the coach's fault. And then Philip Rivers came in, Marty Schottenheimer ended up leaving, and Philip Rivers still couldn't win a playoff game. And I assumed it was just the Chargers. San Diego just wasn't allowed to win a playoff game. Maybe now that he has changed cities, I mean, even though they changed last year, they didn't get a playoff chance last year. This year, Indianapolis, who knows? But I think Buffalo is just the better team. I think, like we said a few times this year, I think Buffalo has the best chance at potentially taking on Kansas City and being the other team that represents the AFC in the Super Bowl. But I think there's another AFC team that might get some attention, and at least from me, is who I'm going to be rooting for. But I'm going to get to them in a little bit because that game's on Sunday. I do want to talk about the 2 NFC games on Saturday, though, Brett, because I will be on both of them. The NFC West game, Rams at Seahawks. The Rams have just had too many questions this season. I mean, Jared Goff and the offense, they have been up, they've been down, they've been left, they've been right, they've gone back a lot, they've come forward, kinda. The defense, there's all the pieces on the defense to be a championship defense. The saying is, defense wins championships, but this Rams defense has not played to the caliber that we saw them at when they went to the Super Bowl and faced against the Patriots and got their butts kicked. So, I'm going with the seniority of Russell Wilson. I'm going with that offense that has been rather consistent with Lockett, Moore, and Metcalf in the receiving core. They've just been fantastic tools for Russell Wilson, and I'm just hoping that the formerly known Legion of Boom can hold up against the Los Angeles Rams. So I'm going to take Seattle -3 here.
Yeah, we'll see what happens in this one. It's so odd, the Rams quarterback situation, like the non-committal to Goff and what's going to happen there. I can't back the Rams in that one. So if anything, I'm gonna lean Seattle. You're on Seattle, so you feel a little bit stronger than I do, but that's definitely the way to. I can only say lean because I have no money on this game right now.
Yes, absolutely. And Seattle did most recently beat the Rams. Week 2 they won 20-9, and then I guess they did lose in week 9, week 10, 23-16, but that was in Los Angeles. This game's in Seattle. They won when the game was in Seattle, so we'll see. An interesting game that I am going to pay a lot of attention to as a Giants fan that loves to talk about Tom Brady in the playoffs. Tom Brady and the Bucks. The first time Tom Brady has ever been a wild card seed is traveling to Washington. Washington, the NFC East debacle that it was. They are the ones that will get to represent the NFC East, and they get a home game out of it. Tom Brady has to travel there, and I I'm not so confident that Washington's going to necessarily win this. I do love the value of the money line though at plus 300 here. So that's why I'm going to be on the money line at plus 300 because if you look at the strong points of this Washington team, it's the defensive line. It's Chase Young and it's Montez Sweat, the two ends. And you look at when Tom Brady has struggled in the playoffs. It's when there is a really strong defensive line, especially when it's coming from the exterior, when it's coming around the tackles. That's when he has struggled in the playoffs against defenses. So Tom Brady, at the age that he is, that offense has gone up and down. They've struggled early. They had lots of injuries. They're kind of all on the same page now. They should win this game. That's why they're 7.5-point favorites. But everything about this to me, and I've been saying it for the weeks leading up to the playoffs, says no one should want to go play the NFC East champion in the playoffs because I don't think your locker room's going to take it seriously. Would you? An 11-5 team coming in to
Yeah,
play a team that's 6-10,
yeah, I take it
7-9?
seriously. It's a playoff game. I don't want to go home, but I don't. I mean, I guess other than that last little point, I was on board. I think it's definitely a strength versus strength game, where it's the Bucks offense is their strength and the Washington football team defense is their strength. Now the Washington football team's never missed the playoffs, Higgins. So that's big news.
The Washington football team has never missed the playoffs. This is true. That is a fact.
That is a
So
fact.
does that delay on us finding out when Washington has an actual new mascot name, or does football team maybe just
It
become their?
sticks. Well, I mean, they were talking about it potentially coming back anyway. So I think now that they've made the playoffs, it definitely sticks. If they win this game, it's coming back for at least 2 years.
I think you kind of have to. I mean, I'm not superstitious, but I am a little stitious, to quote my friend Michael Scott.
Yeah, I would agree.
Let's move
Well,
on to some Sunday action, though. What do you say about that, Brett? 'Cause we got a good matchup that's a rematch from last year's playoffs with the Ravens and the Titans.
yeah, and I'm going to agree with you, Higgins. I think anything can happen in any given game, right? So, like any individual game, I think anything can happen. I think when you get to series, like in basketball and hockey, it's much harder for the underdog to advance because they have to do it 4 times. But one time, anything can happen. So, you're plus 300 on Washington. I'm going to be plus 154 on Tennessee on the money line because, like you, anything can happen. I think Tennessee's a good football team. They actually beat Baltimore last year in the playoffs. Derrick Henry had what's probably now his second most famous stiff arm. The one on Josh Norman, I think, surpassed that, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's just known for his stiff arm at this point. He's built up quite the highlight reel of just throwing people to the ground.
So yeah, I mean, it's one of his more famous stiff arms last year in the postseason. But Lamar Jackson struggles in big games, not just playoff games, Higgins, but just big games in general. Like anytime I feel like we're like, wow, this is a huge game for the Ravens. They could really prove that they're among the elite. They don't. And they need a win on Sunday, and I'm not sure I trust the Ravens to come through, but I'll back Tennessee as home dogs for sure.
So last year, these two faced off in the first round of the playoffs, and Tennessee won 28-12. And I see this a little bit as a revenge game for Baltimore, especially since they were also on each other's regular season schedule this year, and Tennessee won that game as well by using the same strategy that they used in containing Lamar Jackson as they used last postseason. So Harbaugh and Jackson better have come up with a game plan that is different than their normal one because Tennessee has been able to read right through it in the past two times that they've played. But Lamar Jackson also thrives on the unexpected parts of the play. Once the play breaks down, what is everyone going to do? He's very good at reading that open field. Tennessee's been very good at containing him from reading that open field. Baltimore -3. I don't like that they're necessarily the favorites because since Tennessee's won the two most recent games, I feel like they should necessarily be the underdogs in a sense. So I'm staying away from that game right now, but I'm siding with Baltimore at least in terms of fanmanship when I'll be watching that game probably.
All right, well, good luck to you and your fanmanship. But let's hop to one more game, Higgin. Browns Steelers. Browns battling all the COVID issues. Their coach isn't going to be there on Sunday. They have to travel to Pittsburgh. They're going to be missing players. Coaches, I already mentioned their head coach. But you have a pick in this one. I have a pick in this one, so we clearly like the game.
Well, you mentioned the COVID issues and that they're traveling. Are they going to be drag racing from Cleveland to Pittsburgh? Did you think about that? They may be able to make some good time.
They might be able to. That was good, Higgins. I like that because that story kind of flew under the radar a little bit this week.
Well, because his coach tested positive for coronavirus, there was a more pressing Brown story that kind of came out, and then there were some other things happening in the world that drowned out a lot of sports news, and is part of why we're recording today instead of yesterday. But Cleveland +5.5. I'm going to be on Cleveland on the spread, and to be honest, I'll probably find myself on them for the money line as well. And I'm not going to give you analytics and data with this pick, so if that's what you're looking for, just fade me with it. I am saying that Cleveland is, since 2000 up until this season, Cleveland is probably the best team to represent what 2020 was for a majority of Americans. Terrible. They were horrible. In 19 seasons, they hadn't reached 100 total wins as a franchise. It was terrible. They had 2 winning seasons in total. This season, they went 11-5. Optimism, hope. That's what everyone wants from 2021. So I am hitching my loyalty to the Cleveland Browns bandwagon, hoping that the Cleveland Browns win the Super Bowl. I'm not taking the future, but I am taking them in this game. Ben Roethlisberger should retire after this game. His career is done. The Browns are going to win this game on the road to the Super Bowl. I don't know how they're going to beat the Chiefs. I don't worry about that this week. I'll come up with some justification down the road if that happens.
God bless Higgins. That was amazing. Good luck. Oh, man. Well,
I hope I inspired you a little bit.
You're taking the points. You're betting against the odds. I mean, you said money line in there a few times, like twice, I think. The first time I was like, oh, wow, he must have gotten a little carried away. And then he said it again, and I was like, oh, man, he's really sticking his guns to that.
I'm not making my money line a podcast pick. I'll be very clear with that. My spread of +5.5 is my podcast pick. I would not be surprised if by Sunday, though, I also find myself on money line, is what I'm saying.
I respect it, Higgins. You're just rooting hard.
Yes.
I hate to put a little damper on your parade. I don't think Cleveland's going to score very much in this one. They're missing a lot. This is tough circumstances. I also think Pittsburgh probably got to hide a lot of their playbook a week ago, while Cleveland needed that game and needed all those points. And it was a competitive game down the stretch. And they may have had to show a little bit more than they wanted to show a week ago against Pittsburgh. So I I just think the under in this one at 47.5. It's just an uphill battle for Cleveland this week, and I don't know that Pittsburgh's gonna like blow them out. So again, I don't know where I would go on the sides, but the under, it just feels like this one's gonna be low scoring here.
Well, there you go. If you want the logical pick, Brett probably gave you the best reasoning then. But if you want a good story,
The story.
the story is Bet on the Browns with Jake Higgins right here.
Fuck it. Moneyline Browns. We're all in. Honey, the house is on the Browns.
We might be homeless. We'll see.
Yeah, but the story. But the story.
But the story. The story of how we got homeless.